Hey guys, want to welcome you back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. I'm joined by one of my favorite recurring guests. I got Zariq from Real Bully Ball, credentialed NBA media member and photographer. Welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
Appreciate you, man. I'm good. It's been a busy summer. I got back from Vegas like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, maybe a little less than 2 weeks ago. And my sleep schedule still has yet to recover. So it's been an interesting few weeks, but yeah, man, I'm happy to be back on the show.
Yeah, I feel like the last time we talked, it was before the draft, and then that podcast aged like fine wine because I think both of us were pretty high on Ebuka Okorie, which we'll talk about in the summer league in segment two. But I mean, yeah, it's always fun when we get together on these podcasts because a lot of the conversations we have, they usually age pretty well, I would say.
Yeah, the Ebuka one, I feel like that was probably like my Mona Lisa on this podcast. Because when we were talking about him, I don't think really much of any, especially like Pistons fans, were really talking about him. So it was cool to kind of get the ball rolling on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like I had mentioned him to a couple like draft analysts, like people that know ceilings. I think James Barlow at like NBA Draft Junkie. He's like, oh yeah, I could see it. Like it makes sense. Like it's just kind of funny though. As soon as like I initially, because I went downstairs, I saw that OKC drafted him, and I was like, "Oh, OKC got him. I wonder who we're gonna get." And everyone's like, "You moron! We traded up for him." I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't know. I didn't know." I went downstairs. I was like, "Oh shit." But it's always fun to definitely do like pre-draft stuff. But I want to get into the off season because I feel like this off season has definitely been, I think, very underwhelming for the average Piston fan. But I mean, we're kind of just like your overall thoughts with the offseason.
Um, it's kind of a lot to rationalize because on one hand, I understand anyone who's really frustrated that this team ultimately did not take a big swing, quote unquote, this offseason because you come into the deadline this past season, and you're thinking, okay, we're going to, really make a push to be finals contenders. And then you hear Trajan come out and say, okay, well, no, we're not ready for that. We haven't won a first round series yet. Like, let's take it one step at a time. And you can understand that process. And then even like last offseason, kind of the same thing where fans were kind of hoping that they would be a little more aggressive than they were. So all that to say that I understand any fan that is frustrated with this offseason. I can't sit here and act like I don't get it or act like, it's like unreasonable. I think it's totally reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
You look at what this team did in the postseason and the fact that they were, really close to the Eastern Conference Finals, even though they kind of had a bit of a nightmare playoff run. It felt like this team could take that next step. That being said, I do think they got better, marginally, but I do think they got better. I look at John Collins. I think that's a great addition to this team. He's someone that we've talked about for years as a potential Piston. And I actually had the pleasure to meet him in Summer League, and he's a really cool guy and seems pretty excited about coming to Detroit. So hopefully that should be encouraging to any Pistons fan that, because sometimes like when guys sign with Detroit, you don't always know if they're like excited to come, but he's definitely excited. And I think Cade can unlock a lot of his game that wasn't really showcased in Los Angeles this last year. I thought, and I said this before, I thought his time in Utah is kind of the blueprint for how to use him as more of a not high volume, but more of a use him more than Ty Lue. Basically, that's the nice version of what I was trying to say.
That's the bar.
Yeah, and not to be a knock on Ty Lue, but I just didn't think they got the best out of John Collins, and I think he's still a really good power forward in the league. And I think the vertical spacing he provides, along with being a pretty good 3-point shooter. I mean, there's been games where he's killed the Pistons the last few years. So that's another Pistons killer a little bit added to the roster. And then Isaiah Joe, obviously that was the first move that they made. I think he's a really talented 3-point shooter, obviously, but I also think he has a lot more than 3-point shooting to add to this team. His athleticism is actually really underrated. He gets to the rim pretty well, and he's had quite a few posters. And I think he can be a talented scorer. I think he has the potential to be more than what he has been. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Malik Beasley contract back in like 2024, summer of 2024. Ironically, on this, I think it was this podcast where I was like, yeah, man, I don't think fans are talking about Malik Beasley enough before the season. Kind of the same feeling with Isaiah Joe. Not to say he's going to break the 3-point record or anything like that, like how Malik Beasley did, but I do think he can pop on this team if he's given a bigger role than he was in OKC. He's been a really good player for a really good team for a while now, and I feel like in a bigger role, he can take a leap as an offensive player. I would like to see him, with a little more scoring juice. I'd like to see him be like a focal point of this offense if this is the team that they're running out day one. And then on top of that, I mean, you just look at like what else they did this offseason. You look at the Kevin Huerter contract.
Yeah.
I can understand why fans were not super thrilled with that, but he provides depth at least, and you hope that the 3-point shot can get back to what it used to be. I did think he provided some good ancillary stuff off, like outside of the 3-point shooting. I thought you could definitely feel his impact in game, especially like before injury, that he had a little stretch where he was playing really well. So I can see the value there. It does make the rotations a little bit confusing, looking at, trying to map out who's going to play, who's not going to play. That's the one signing that really made all of this a little more muddied to me, because it's like, okay, then you brought back Javante, but you're not paying Kevin Huerter like $9 million to be a third string guy. But then you also still have Duncan, which I think also that's like an underrated part of this entire offseason, is having two elite 3-point shooters on this team is quite literally the recipe for success. We saw it with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley in 2024. And then they went away from it last year where almost all of that burden was on Duncan Robinson. And if they had another shooter in the playoffs, who knows where they would have gone, because that 3-point shooting really dried up a lot of times for them. So if they have two 3-point shooters, we know that it opens up a lot for this offense, and it also opens up a lot for Cade. So I think that's also a really underrated part. But then again, it's just part of the rotation question of okay, who's going to play, who's not going to play, because there's just so many guys on this team. It's a deep team, I will say. I think they're going to miss Isaiah Stewart in terms of rim protection. I got to get that out the way.
Oh, yeah.
That one hurt. I can't lie. That one hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
But outside of that, I feel like this team is roughly around where they were last year, if not a little bit better. The only issue is that the Eastern Conference has really improved, and that's its own conversation that I'm sure we'll get into more. But yeah, for sure. Those are basically my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've improved, but just so marginally that it's like, I'm glad you brought up the Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway, because it's similar spacing, but you talked about Isaiah Joe, you talked about Duncan. I mean, you have Taurean Prince, who's been a 40% 3-point shooter. I don't know where you play him, backup 4 maybe, which I'm not really too thrilled with. A 6'6" guy playing backup 4. I don't know if they keep Gary Harris, even though, do you have 6 shooting guards in the roster? Do you really need to carry 6 shooting guards? I don't really think so. I mean, Jazz Lanier had a hell of a summer league, who I know we're going to get into summer league in segment 2, but I mean, there's just so many shooting guards on this roster where you look at the shooting guard room, it is easily the most stacked room. And backup power forward is still a big weakness. It's been a big weakness since Trajan has got here. I don't really understand. Maybe there just wasn't a player out there that made sense for them contractively, but it's still a big hole on this team.
It definitely is. I think right now, though, that the idea has to be playing Ron Holland as the backup 4, and that's part of the rotation thing I was bringing up earlier, because Ron has to be a big part of this team moving forward, right? Yeah. Especially going into year 3 now. Hopefully you're seeing more development with the shot, with just the on-ball scoring or the transition scoring, which he has shown real flashes of. And at the end of the season, his 3-point shot was hitting at a pretty decent clip as well. So if he can find his way into this rotation like permanently, because like you have to believe that's a priority for this team, right? Is to make him a big part of this team. So I would think it's as the backup power forward, because you still have like $9 million to Kevin Huerter is not like that's just guaranteed you're in the rotation, right? So and then Duncan Robinson, of course, 15 million, Isaiah Joe 11 million. And this is just like strictly speaking, like contractual wise, not even like basketball on the court fit, whatever. Those are all guys who play the 2-3, right? So, and then on top of that, like one of them has to start. Personally, I think Isaiah Joe, I would start him. I thought Duncan Robinson was really good off the bench in that Cleveland series, like towards game 6 and 7. I thought he was incredible. Even then, like, okay, backup shooting guard, would be maybe Duncan, and then you still got Huerter at the 3, and then that's legit. That's legit. It like no matter how you shake it, Ron Holland's the backup power forward. So it makes the Taurean Prince thing also a little interesting. Like, is Taurean just going to be a third string guy at this point in his career? Because he's kind of always been like a 20+ per minute guy. It's a lot. JB's got a lot to figure out. I do understand the concerns about the backup power forward, but I think if you're Trajan, the hope is, Ron can grow into that role eventually. And the only thing, because I mean, like Ron's like 6'8", like he's like a true 6'8", like he's a big dude. He just is a little bit like skinnier in frame, but I would think that like that's where they see it, and they just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I know some Pistons fans like cringe at like backup 4 with Ron, which I like. The discourse on Twitter is so interesting when you put out depth charts, and we did like a whole depth chart podcast. We made a graphic, and like I didn't have Ron as a backup power forward. I had him as a backup small forward backing up Sarr. I was just like, I just don't know. I feel like, different situations, different teams, different lineups, you definitely could, but I still feel like they definitely need one. I kind of wanted to like piggyback off of this topic. Like, what do you think the biggest concern with this team still is, if you had to pinpoint just like maybe 1 or 2 issues?
Well, one of them would be the fact that you might have lost a little bit of your identity. Tobias and Isaiah Stewart, like as offseason departure, like the thing with those two specifically, there was always, their names in trade rumors and conversations and stuff like that. But the messaging that Pistons fans and the messaging that was relayed just through the media as well was, these guys are like the heartbeat of the team, right? Like they are the Detroit Pistons. Like Tobias Harris is the veteran leader. He literally was the reason that they were able to make that 3-1 comeback in Orlando, because he was the one guy that really like held down the ship the entire time. Yeah. And I think there's going to be a lot missed there in terms of leadership. But then in another part, Isaiah Stewart, like when you talk about what made this team special, the word grit, right, comes up. Yeah. And there is no player that embodied that more than Isaiah Stewart. And I think Troy Weaver was obviously not an amazing Pistons general manager, but one of the things that he said that I really resonated with was that Isaiah Stewart like is the identity of the Detroit Pistons, and like without him, he doesn't know what the identity would be. It was something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but I really do struggle to see like where that kind of edge comes from. Like it made the Pistons a lot more intimidating, and that this all like plays a role like on the court as well. Like having an enforcer, having a guy who also was like one of the best rim protectors in basketball, period. I think that's like a lot to miss. Not to say I don't think Paul Reed can be a great backup center, because of course he can. We saw it in the playoffs. But just on like the identity aspect, because like the identity was such a big part of this team. Trajan himself, like there was a conversation at the like post trade deadline press conference where he was talking about like talent versus identity, or talent versus culture. And he was saying that, culture, a good culture can beat good talent, especially in today's NBA. And with the loss of like two of your biggest culture guys, it really like begs the question, will the culture be the same? Of course, like JB is going to bring, that identity as much as he can, because like that's the type of coach he is. But those are two really big guys to lose. And the thought process with like losing them was always that you were going to replace them, especially like Tobias specifically, with like a real star level guy. And this is part of why I do understand why fans can be upset, because like fans get attached to like buying into like identity and buying into like the messaging that Trajan like, is putting out there. And when you really sell fans on the idea that these guys are a huge part of the identity, they are a huge part of what made this team as special as it was, losing them for ultimately like not much, right? Because Stu was essentially traded for 3 second-round picks that were 3 second-round picks that they had already traded, so it's kind of like a bit of a wash. And then Tobias obviously just walked in free agency. It does make it a little bit questionable. It does, because like running back the team essentially and making marginal improvements implies that you have what made the previous team special. And maybe there's a question that you don't, right? With Isaiah Stewart gone, with Tobias Harris gone, like, and this isn't even like strictly speaking like analytics, whatever. I'm strictly speaking like culture, because all of this plays a role. And I think, especially for the Pistons, like the way that they were able to succeed wasn't a traditional basketball fit, because it wasn't the most talented team. They'll tell you themselves that, right? Like they were a grit culture. I'll bust your ass. I'll play harder defense. Like I'll fight you if I have to. Like that was a huge part of it. So whoever carries on that type of role, it ultimately will carry on that culture. But that's a big part of it. And, when you look at this team, that's a big concern for me.
I know we had conversations this summer, like when Isaiah Stewart got traded. I was like, man, I probably would have rolled with Stu over JD, because I don't value the center position like some other fans do. That's just me, even though he had an incredible season. We'll talk about Turn at the end of the podcast. But I think you're right. Like, you lose two guys that were so important to that locker room on and off the court. Like, I feel like a part of the fan base died when they traded Isaiah Stewart, because he embodied, I think, what a lot of older generation fans fell in love with the previous championship team with the Go in the Work Pistons, because he started to become that rim protector that I think a lot of, Detroit fans love. And not to mention the shit talking, the crash outs, which I love the crash outs. They were probably some of my favorite memories with Stu. But I think I was really underwhelmed by just the process of the trade, because I was like, okay, if you're dumping him, there has to be maybe a bigger move out there. And then it becomes this like 6-team trade where you're also able to get off Karis LeVert and you're bringing in John Collins. And I was like, man, that's really underwhelming to lose a guy that not only defensively helped you have the second-rated defense last year, but you're also losing identity and a culture. And not to mention Tobias as well. I mean, that was your second leading scorer in the playoffs. Like, where's that production going to come in now? So, I mean, I think those are my biggest concerns. And then, like, obviously having a secondary creator as well. Because, I mean, you look at this team, I think it's well equipped for the regular season. I think the playoffs, you're going to have a similar, different type of, I don't want to say struggles, but I think you're going to run into the same type of like roadblocks that you've had over the past two playoff series. But that's if they don't make any more moves to start the season, or maybe during the trading deadline or in the middle of the season. But I mean, those are my biggest concerns with this roster right now.
Yeah, the secondary creator part's a good shout. That was also like one other thing that kind of goes without saying at this point. It's been talked to death. Yeah. Obviously, Ebuka Okorie has on-ball juice. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in the summer league portion of things. But there's no way that the expectation is that he's going to come in and be that guy day one. Because also, I don't know where he is in the rotation day one right now. Like,
Yeah.
I obviously we both are very high on Ebuka, but another part of it is, will he play? How will he fit into the rotation? How would he play? We don't really have an answer for all these things. So yeah, having a true secondary creator, not really having that is also a big question mark. And it is kind of something that Trajan had talked about even post draft. I forgot who was, someone from 97.1, I believe, asked Trajan, does Ebuka really address that secondary creation thing that you were, talking about as a big, like the on ball creation specifically? Does that address it? And he said like it does, but they still have more to work on. And obviously that was pre-free agency and everything like that. But like there ended up being no real answer unless like you just kind of go, with Cade as the offensive engine once again. And the one thing I will say is like they did add a lot of great play finishers. Like John Collins, an elite play finisher in my opinion. Isaiah Joe, elite play finisher. If you do play Ebuka, I think he can provide on ball creation, and like all these guys can complement two guys in Cade and Ebuka who do create a lot on ball. But like there is no real secondary creator right now, and I don't expect it to be Ebuka day one. As high as I am on him, like that's a lot to ask, and I don't think that's like realistic to expect. So yeah, I think that's a big concern as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know like they're at 16 roster spots. They still have a little bit of wiggle room, like with the cap space. I mean, do you see them making maybe any type of moves? I'm considering it might be a small move. Maybe there's another trade on the horizon, possibly.
I mean, it's hard to say like for sure they're done. But I look, I don't really see anything else. Like obviously right now they're at 16, I think, players, including Duran.
Yeah.
So I think likely someone would probably end up getting waived. But I don't necessarily see like a trade on the horizon. I do think the deadline is the target as like the evaluation point. I think they'll look at this deadline and go, okay, are we where we want to be? Do we feel like we address what we want to address, and like what's working on this team, what's not working on this team? And then I think they would probably go with, whatever move that fans are really clamoring for. That's probably when it would happen, if it did happen at all. But no, and until then, I don't really see anything.
Yeah, I mean, I just assume that Gary Harris gets waived and then they're at their 15. Even though they interviewed him during the summer league, which I was kind of confused by, but it's just like we'll just grab somebody to interview. But I don't really know what he has to offer. I know he's been really injured over the past few seasons, but maybe he's just another vet. I don't know. Maybe it's a battle between him and Chaz in training camp and preseason. Who knows, man? Who really knows?
Yeah, they have a while to make that decision on who gets cut.
Yeah, but hey, maybe there's a trade. Yeah, never say never. I mean,
yeah,
they were linked to DeMar DeRozan, and I was just like, please no.
I mean, if you want to talk about that for a second, the two that came up recently were DeMar and Benedict Mathurin. Granted, like neither I don't think really have real traction, but the idea of them I kind of get. Like DeMar, I kind of understand, because it's not saying DeMar is going to be your answer. He's like I don't think they would even try to pitch it like that to fans. Like I think he would basically fill the Tobias role, and you look at what, like, especially offensively, what made Tobias a on-ball creator was his mid-range game. That was it. That was basically it. Because when Tobias would get the ball, he'd work that mid-post, and it was always like a mid-post fade, usually. DeMar kind of does the same thing, right? Like, obviously not the same player, but I don't think the fit is as bad as people say it is. Now, it's bad if you're starting him with Asar and JD, because then who's doing the shooting? But if he's coming off the bench, I don't really see an issue with it. It does, again, make the rotation questions even more confusing, but I don't necessarily hate it. If DeMar ended up coming to Detroit, I doubt he does. I think he'll probably end up in like Cleveland, Golden State, or if him and Drake end up patching up things, maybe Toronto. But for Benedict Mathurin, if that is something they kick the can or kick the tires on, I don't mind it at all. I mean, that obviously would be a sign and trade, so that would be a trade that maybe you could look at. According to I think it was Brett Siegel, he said that they talked to his camp in Vegas, so we'll see. Obviously, Mathurin's a flawed player. He was part of that 2022 draft, but I do think there's still a lot to him. I think he'd fit perfectly in the Pistons like transition focused offense. I think he's obviously a hell of an athlete. His 3-point shot's actually really not bad. I think this year he shot around like 34% or something like that. But he has good 3-point rate, and throughout like his entire career so far, he's gotten up around like I think 3 to 4 per game. So he's someone who's not afraid to shoot. And I mean, he hits at an okay enough clip that I think you'd feel comfortable with it. And then obviously he has the ability to create a little more on ball. Does he get tunnel vision a little bit when he's doing so? Yes, for sure. Yeah. But there is hypothetical creation there. So I do kind of see the vision, and he's only like, I think 23, 24. So again, like he would fit the timeline of this team. Not saying like neither of these guys I don't think would be the answer long term, but maybe Mathurin a little bit more if he really comes along development wise. But outside of that, I think they're done. But those are two guys I think would be interesting. I would actually personally, I would really be interested with Benedict Mathurin, but I don't know if that's something that actually would happen.
Yeah, the DeMar thing, like I would be 100% out if he was starting, because he's worse than Duncan Robinson defensively. Like, I don't think people realize how bad he is at the defensive end. Like, all of his energy goes on the offensive end, which, I mean, at this stage of his career, I get it. Like, you don't want to pull something like trying to switch or rotate. Like, I'd be open if he took like a Karras role on this team, but that's the only way I would like really want DeMar in Detroit. But then you would have to do some roster maneuvering to try to like make room for him. I'm with you on the Benedict Mathurin. I think it makes a little bit more sense like stylistically. I know Rick Carlisle had him off the bench in Indiana, and then I thought he did okay with the Clippers, but I think it was just a learning and an adjustment period. He didn't really shoot the ball the best from the perimeter when he was in LA. But I mean, I remember the conversations in 22 with him and Ivy, and like he wanted to go 5 to the Pistons, and we drafted Ivy at 5. But I mean, that would kind of just be like a kind of like a funny transition if the Pistons were able to sign and trade him with the Clippers. Who knows what happens with the Clippers, because they want Peyton Watson, and Sam Presti just pulled the biggest dick move I've ever seen. With Denver, like Denver's got to make a decision whether they want to be a second apron team. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that maybe Ben Math could be a Piston, maybe they bring him back. I mean, he's restricted as well. So I mean, I'm with you. I'd rather have Ben Math than DeMar DeRozan for
sure. Yeah,
but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Benedict Mathurin also is a better defender at this stage than DeMar, like obviously as you mentioned. So I was really high on Jaden Ivey in the 2022 NBA draft. Like that was 100% my guy in that draft. I will take the loss on that. I will admit that obviously things did not work out how they were supposed to work out for him. For one reason or another, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
That being said, I also was really high on Benedict Mathurin. So, I'm sure I have it somewhere in my phone, but like I think this was when you and I were at Woodward. I was like, I made a right before I got to Woodward. I made like a Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham like video edit back in the day, and this was when I was just like making edits. And this was before my credentialed days or all that stuff. So, if you remember me from then, shout out to you. But I had one that I literally never finished it, and I was like in my drafts forever, and it was Benedict Mathurin, Cade Cunningham, one of like the exact same template, and it just like never saw the light of day. So that was just kind of funny. That I was like, man, if that happens, like full circle.
I mean, hey, like what's Portland doing? Are they gonna stay in Portland? What's Shaden Sharp doing these days? Like, you never
Yeah.
know. You never
Yeah.
know. I thought those were three guys that like every Piston fan just fought with when we were at 5 because we like obviously we knew we needed a 2
Well,
guard
you
and like
can't forget about Keegan Murray too.
yeah, I remember the hype there. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there's a sign and trade with you never know. You
Sacramento,
never
yeah,
know.
that'd be
Yeah, you
fun.
never know. That would just kind of just be like we're just gonna bring in all the top 5 picks in the
Yeah.
2022 NBA draft. But I wanted to transition into segment 2, and it's summer league. Now, obviously, I know you mentioned at the top of the podcast you were able to make it out to Las Vegas. We're kind of just like your standouts, obviously. I know you're probably going to talk about Ebuka Okorie, maybe touch on Ugonna Onyenso, but I mean, was there someone like not on a standard contract that really caught your attention?
Drake Allen.
Yeah.
Pretty easy answer there. I thought he was great. Like, he didn't have the type of summer league that really pops like statistically, like in terms of like points, rebounds, assists. But I thought he did all the right things on the court. I wish I had his stats pulled up like right now in terms of like his advanced stats, because like if you talk about like the Sheets guys, I've really kind of like had to grow my, because I was never a math person. I'm just gonna say that I was never a math person in school. That was never my thing. Obviously, I'm a photographer and writer. Like, no shit. But I've had to really like get more familiar with the advanced stats, and luckily I have some people now at Bully Ball who are really into that stuff. So it's kind of like put me on a little bit, and it's given me a little bit of like what to look for. Drake Allen, if he did make it to the NBA level, would be like a advanced stats like wet dream. He does all the right things, and I am so sure that his adjusted plus minus would be so high. I'm sure he was a positive, even though they had a losing record in summer league. I am almost certain that he had a positive plus minus in all of his minutes because he made every winning play imaginable. His defensive rotations were really good. He was a dog defensively. He was getting in guys' faces. I thought he perfectly fit the Pistons culture. I would be shocked if the Pistons just let him walk on any level. I am so certain that at least he will be with the Motor City Cruise. I think he should get a 2-way somehow, some way. Because I thought he was incredible. Like that was, and again, it's not like he was coming out and scoring 20, 30 points a game. But he was doing all the right things to be a quality role player in the NBA and be like a really solid wing. I don't know how tall he is. I would guess just based off like in person, I would guess he's around like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
So he fits like that wing kind of archetype as well. I thought he was really good. I don't know how many people really like watched every summer league game, but if you did, you know, he played really well. Obviously, Roddy Gale out of Michigan, I thought he played really well as well. That's a lot of wells. I thought he played really well though. He didn't play one of the games. I think it was like a coach's decision or something like that.
Yeah.
I missed one game because I was like traveling that day. But from what I saw, he was exactly as advertised. He played exactly just how he did in Michigan. Pretty much similar to Drake Allen. I think obviously a little more athletic than Drake. I thought he was really good. I would totally expect to see him with the Motor City Cruise. Likely not a 2-way guy initially, but I think he could definitely get his way there. Like I think both of these guys could end up playing on the NBA level. I think Drake Allen could play like right now today. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I didn't see much from Roddy like shooting wise. I think that's like one of his struggles. Where I saw Drake a little bit more space the floor a little bit better. So I think those were the two performances that I really came away like, okay, those guys are really good. And then obviously Chaz Lanier. That one feels kind of like a layup. He shot the lights out after that because the first game, it wasn't like he was putting up bad shots. They just weren't hitting. And after that, it was like he was a flamethrower. He was lights out, unconscious from 3. That second game, I think it was against Cleveland, where he just like went unconscious in the first quarter. I was like looking around and I was talking to people. I was like, what the hell is going on right now? He's got like 17 in the first quarter. He was incredible. And it was the exact kind of performance that he needed, honestly, at like where the roster is right now and, the conversations that I'm sure are being had, that was definitely the type of performance that he needed. And I've always said, in my time covering him, the Motor City Cruise, I thought his off-ball movement is part of what makes him a really intriguing player. And it's what would really port easily into the NBA level. He hasn't really gotten much for opportunity. And I think if he did, fans would see it pretty soon. Obviously, I wouldn't expect him to shoot I don't know what percentage he shot from three. I don't have it pulled up right now. I would guess it was like high 40s. I don't think that's realistic to expect, but I do think like the off-ball movement really creates good opportunities. And then with a playmaker like Cade, he could definitely find his way to the NBA floor. Whether that's here or not, I think they would benefit to give him a chance, but we'll see. But yeah, those three guys I thought were objectively the best outside of Ebuka.
Yeah, so he shot 51% from three.
There we go. Yeah.
Made 23 out of 45 attempts, which is just insane. But like that's what you want to see out of a second-year player in the summer league. Like that's what they're there for. Drake Allen, like I remember doing like kind of like a podcast, kind of just like looking at all the roster players. I was expecting him to put someone on a poster because he's actually like sneaky athletic where like, you don't really see it. Like if you turn his college highlights on, you're like, oh, like he can space the floor a little bit. He's pretty athletic. Like the defense, like I saw kind of like the switchability, but like I feel like it was so under advertised when I was watching the game because I was like, man, who is this kid? Oh, he's on an Exhibit 10. Oh, he's definitely making the training camp roster. Like obviously the Pistons see something there that they're intrigued with. So
for sure,
Drake Allen, I was really high on. Roddy Gale, to your point, like if you grew up in Michigan, you're a Michigan fan, like you watch the national championship game, like that's just, to me, Roddy Gale just kind of screams like Detroit Piston, like just the way he plays. Obviously, he's not the best perimeter shooter, but I think that's something he could definitely work on. Could totally see him like being a Motor City Cruise, like part of the G League team. Maybe he can elevate to a two-way spot, but we don't have any more two-way spots available. But to be honest, I mean, I could argue one of the guys on the two-way contract spots, I just shouldn't have a two-way spot. Like you guys could probably kind of take a guess if you watched our post-game podcast in the summer league who that is, but because there's one guy in the summer league, I was just like, man, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But any thoughts on Ugonna Onyenso? Because I know a lot of Pistons fans were just like super hyped with him, and then it kind of seems like this might just be like a huge development project.
Yeah, it was exactly what I expected from Ugonna. Like people were like, "Oh my god!" Because I said, I think I tweeted like I was like, I think Ugonna is exactly as advertised. You can see the defensive upside, but there's a lot to work with there offensively. And some people are like, man, are you kidding me? Like as advertised, like this guy's like not ready for the NBA at all. I'm like, no shit. Like that's why he's on a two-way, right? Like the physical tools are 100% there. I think the shot blocking is there. I think he just needs refinement. I think a year of development will do wonders for him. It's a lot to project someone who's as raw as he is to be like, okay, this guy's 100% going to be an NBA player. But if it works out, he will 100% be an NBA player. He just really has to get more familiar with the like feel of the NBA game. You could see him getting lost a little bit, especially offensively and defensively. Sometimes his rotations were a little bit slow. But I think the physical tools are 100% there. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's like the first true 7-footer they've had in like a very long time. Yeah. I want to say the last one was it like Plumlee, or was Plumlee like a real 7? He was like 6'10" or something. So yeah, I don't know who the last 7-footer that was on this team was, but he's a true 7-foot. He's a legit 7-foot too. Being up close and personal, big son of a bitch. But he's legit. Like he's a project. He's legit a project. Like we say the 2 years away from being 2 years away. He's probably 2 years. He's 2 years away. I wouldn't say he's 2 years away from being 2 years away, but he's 2 years away, I would say. But the draft guys that I really trust and believe in really love Ugonna. We talked about it before the draft, before there was ever a possibility he would even land here. They were really high on him, and I believe in the process there. And I believe ultimately that like Trajan sees something in him. He was like beaming with pride when I was at the introductory press conference for Ugonna. I don't think Trajan saw anything that surprised him in terms of like being more raw than expected. I think that's exactly what we expected. If you watched any bit of his college tape, it's pretty much as advertised, even down to the 1 3-point shot, right? Like he did get that one up and he did hit. So there is potential there that he could be a stretch big, which would be really cool. But yeah, Ugonna is going to be a project, but I definitely think there is something there.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to go to a few Motor City Cruise games this year just as a spectator, just to see like how the development's going, because I fully anticipate him like getting at least maybe sixth man or even starter minutes, just to kind of refine his skill down there. And just like a lot of the things you mentioned, like it's just he was out of position or he wasn't really rotating, and like laterally I think he could get a little bit quicker, but it's a lot of the things that he messed up on are actually correctable with coaching, which I don't think there's like any like red flags with him as a prospect. Like at the end of the day, like if he's your backup center, like that's a win with the guy that you're drafting in the high 50s in the second round, which I think that could probably be a ceiling in a few years. But one guy I know we're probably going to talk about a lot is Ebuka Okorie. I read an ESPN piece and I kind of just like, I didn't agree with it. I don't know if you read it. It was like their 30 things, what we learned about each team. And they kind of said they don't expect Ebuka to be an impact player like year one. Obviously, he did have his first game, he looked really good. Last game, he looked really good. Just in between, there was the shot selection that I think a lot of people were pointing at. I mean, what is kind of this your overall take with his summer league and people saying that maybe he's not ready to be a contributor year one?
I think it's a little harsh. I mean, I can understand why. We were talking about this earlier. I can understand why, there's questions of will he play, right? Like, I think the question is, will he play versus can he play? I think he 100% can play. I think there's no doubt that Ebuka Okorie, like if he was on even a play-in team, if he was on the Charlotte Hornets, he would probably like be in the starting conversation. Like he is legitimately, in my opinion, in the 20, if he was in the 2024 NBA draft, I think he would have gone like top 5, top 10. Like I think this is a guy who can 100% contribute day one. The shot selection thing, I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, because good or bad, he got to pretty much the same spots each game. His finishing at the rim was obviously way better in that final summer league game. But it was pretty much the same shots he was taking. I think a big part of summer league that doesn't get seen maybe on TV, and this is something that I learned this year just by being there, it is so physical. Like it is way more physical than the NBA, because like they get away with anything, especially if you're coming into the game as like the guy, that like teams are scouting against, because there's not like obviously like insane game plans and all this stuff for summer league, but if we know you're going to play your first round pick that is going to be a big part of your offense, that's all we're going to target. And that's kind of what they did, right? Like they just really trapped Ebuka. Like as soon as he got across half court, they were pressing him. They were fouling the shit out of him. To put it bluntly, like they were fouling the shit out of him. He was getting held, and a big part of it was also off ball. I noticed and that was one thing that I thought, he could improve on. If we're talking about like areas of improvement, I thought he could improve in terms of creating separation off ball. That doesn't necessarily include the fact that like guys were like legitimately holding him, but just like getting past guys, I think that's something he could definitely improve on. And I think his off ball, offensive like value is that was something I asked Trajan about a little bit when they drafted him. And I was like, he was an offensive engine right on the ball in Stanford. How does that translate with Cade? Because one of them is going to have to be off the ball a little bit more. Obviously, we're a little bit of a ways away from that being like a starting conversation, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll share the core at some point this season. And it's hard for me to imagine that he doesn't play this season. Like I doubt this is a redshirt year for him where he spends like most of his time in the Motor City Cruise, just because I know that this front office is so high on Ebuka Okorie that it's hard for me to imagine him not playing at all. So like the question is like, how will he fit in? It's not, can he fit in? I really disagree that he's not a day one contributor. He could 100% be a day one contributor. I think the flashes that I saw in Summer League were exactly what I saw in Stanford, and it's exactly why I was super high on him. And outside of like Darren Peterson, Mikael Brown, I had Ebuka Okorie like right there. I thought he was like a top 3 guard in this class, and the fact that the Pistons were able to get him at technically 17, I think that's a big win. I think the upside's definitely there. I don't think he's going to start obviously day one. I don't think he's even probably going to start next year, unless some like insane development happens like year one, where he looks like that final Summer League game like every game. But I do think the vision is there long term for him to end up being that secondary guy.
And now when I read that article, I was kind of just like, well, I'm not really going to put stock on him struggling when that was the worst Summer League roster. Like, no disrespect to the players that were on that roster. That was the worst Summer League roster I've seen in probably 10 years. It was just terrible, man. I was just like, our Motor City Cruise guys are just eating. Shout out to Isaac Jones and Bryce Williams. Like, they're not passing the ball when they get it. Like, they're just going to go for 20-25. But, I mean, I honestly think there's a real conversation of backup backup point guard, excuse me, with him and Danish Jenkins. Like, I think that's a camp battle that I'll be paying attention to, because I don't really think it's set in stone right now. And I know you mentioned the pressure. I was reading one of the transcripts. A quote that Trajan said that really caught my attention was like Ebuka leading the second unit. So I think Trajan envisions him being a backup guard with the second unit. I think that's where he wants to see him get those reps in this upcoming season. But I was pretty impressed with this Summer League. Like the shooting splits really didn't concern me too much, because he was able to get just primetime real estate and get those paint touches. Like, what happens when he actually plays with the center that can set a pick? What happens when he actually plays with real NBA players that can space the floor? Like, he was looking for Chaz Lanier almost every possession. Like, what happens if he's throwing it to Duncan Robinson or Kevin Huerter or Isaiah Joe, or, he's getting a screen by Paul Reed or a lob pass to Paul Reed? Like, I think he'll be fine, and I think he could be a day one contributor with the Pistons and JV Bickerstaff.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic because like a lot of times the conversation with Summer League is like, oh, like just wait till this guy has to play against an NBA. But like now it's like, man, if this guy can just get to play with NBA players, his play will look so much better. Because usually you hear just like the opposite. It's like, oh, this guy's not going to translate to the NBA, or like it's going to be tough for him. It's like, I think the question isn't will he like it. The question is just, can he end up being part of the rotation? Because if he is, I think there's no doubt that he could 100% benefit from playing alongside, Cade, playing alongside even the second unit guys like Duncan or Isaiah Joe, like you mentioned, or Paul Reed, or if Duran ends up like, having some rotations where, he's sharing the court with Ebuka. I thought they would play really well together as well. Did it again. But I think Ebuka's, and I think he can also play with Danis. Like, I don't think it necessarily has to be a training camp battle. I think it like, maybe there's a world where he ends up being a 1-2 combo. Cause I thought Danis played really well with Marcus Sasser in the playoffs. Like, that was something that I think worked really well, that like didn't really get talked about much. And obviously Marcus is gone now, and that's just kind of over with, but that was like a huge part of why they won Game 6 was Danis and Sasser really just having this great synergy together off the bench. Again, the question again isn't like, can that work? It's how will it work? Because there's so much depth in the guard room right now. So it's a lot to figure out, but I have no doubts really that Ebuka at minimum can be a contributor in the NBA.
Yeah, same here. Like, I mean, I personally think Danis is better at the 2 guard than he is playing point guard, because I think he's much suited to just playing off ball, and I think you could have like a point guard shooting guard combination of those two off the bench. If JB wants to kind of just roll with that and have a smaller lineup, which definitely think he could. But I was pretty impressed with the summer league overall. Now, a lot of people just saw Malik Thomas just light it the hell up, but I think that's just more of like, I don't know how that kid did not get drafted in the first round.
That
Like,
was
that's like,
shocking to me. That was really shocking.
yeah, I mean, like the scoring ability and the shooting ability is there. Like, it's just in the playmaking too. The playmaking, like I was watching some Cavs summer league games. I was like, how did this kid slip to the Cavs in the second round? And he's maybe going to be in a two-way contract now. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I'm pretty sure he's on a guaranteed deal. I think.
Oh, is he?
I could be wrong. Maybe I was misinformed on that, but there's no way he's signing a two-way. Like, there's no shot.
Oh, yeah, you're right. 4 years, $9.2 million. Still, that's cheap as hell.
Man. Yeah, it's really cheap. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that end up kicking themselves for not drafting Malik Thomas. That was really confusing to me. I think Isaiah Evans falling in the second round was a little less shocking. I still thought he should have gone in the first round, but Malik Thomas not going in the first, that was insane to me.
Yeah, same here. The last segment I want to get into, well, actually, this is the third segment. Is more of just like Eastern Conference hierarchy. Have to hear from our sponsors at FanDuel, but after that, we will get into the Eastern Conference. So let's talk to you guys real quick about the Detroit Pistons under/over. They're set at 50.5 wins right now. For the over, it's at -105. For the under, it's at -120. I have already told you guys I took the over because I am just a sick individual. Because I've taken the over and I've won the past couple of years. But hey, man, 50.5 wins is a big jump from 44.5. So we'll see.
Yeah, like imagine showing somebody that line like 3 years ago.
They'd be like, no shot. Is Cade still here? It's like, what happened? What's kind of your take on like Pistons fans crashing out over Cade being with KD and Drake?
I mean, for one, the KD stuff, we gotta let that go right now, guys. Like, I'm sorry, it's not happening right now. Like, maybe at the deadline we can have that conversation of, is he available? Will that, is that something? I mean, I don't even know like what a KD trade would look like in 2026, maybe even 2027. Because he'll be like 38 years old, 37, 38, one of the two. But he's still KD. So I don't know. I haven't seen too much about like the fans like losing their minds because I've been trying to like not be as just entrenched in the Pistons community at this point in the offseason because I was like, I feel like I need a mental break because it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Yeah. The Drake stuff, though, I mean, another win for the good guys. We are on the right side of history over here at Bully Ball. We really enjoyed the 3-album release, and apparently Cade did too. So, yeah, no, I mean, I of all the Pistons, I mean, it's like unrelated, but it's like, I mean, even if you hate Drake, like some people hate Drake, it's kind of a cool sign that you have a real superstar if you're a Pistons fan, right? Like that you have a player that's like in these types of
circles and stuff.
Circles, like, because it's not like there's just anybody there. It's like him, Booker, and KD as far as like athletes. Those were the only guys there. So I think that says a lot about Cade's star power growing and where he is right now and where he's on the trajectory to be. I mean, Nike signature athlete, his shoes coming out soon. It's a lot to be excited about if you're a Cade Cunningham fan.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that, and I don't understand. Like, I happen to like Drake and Kendrick Lamar. I never chose a side.
Same.
I like both of their music, but I mean, if they want to beef and their fans want to stand with like who's right and who's wrong, I mean, go for it. I could give a shit. But like, I saw Pistons fans saying, KD posted KD on his stories. Are we trading for KD? I was like, probably
They're just
not.
friends, man.
I mean, it's like his mentor. He's like 37 years old. I'll be 38 in September. So, I mean, in a couple of months. So, if it crashes out in Houston, who knows? Maybe KD wants to take his talents to Detroit. I don't know. I really don't. But, I mean, I saw that. And I was like, I don't really think it signifies anything. But didn't want to, like, have your take on it because I know you are a really big Drake fan. I was just like, I got to talk to him about it.
Yeah. No, I mean,
funny.
it was funny because like all those years ago, there was a Drake picture where he had posted, I think on like his like second Instagram account or something, and it was like him sitting in Cade Cunningham's locker
with Crocs.
Yeah, and then when that came out, because I think I was like one of the only people to tweet. I was like, oh look, because it was when the Pistons were terrible. I was like, oh look, like Drake sitting in Cade's locker. How cool is that? Something along those lines was the tweet. And then when that song got leaked, like, I don't know, maybe a year ago, about the Crocs, I won't repeat the line. But if you know, you know. My tweet was like the one that like got picked up because I was like, oh my God, it's proof that this actually did happen because he did sit in Cade Cunningham's locker and he probably wrote it in the locker. So
and he took his Crocs
cool,
on top
yeah,
of it.
Cool to know their friendship goes beyond Crocs.
I just find it funny, man, that people actually
I
feel
hopefully we can get a Cade Cunningham bar from Drake. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, eventually.
Yeah.
I know Baby Tron has had a couple.
Yeah, it's legendary.
He's got a Cade Cunningham song. Don't book him at halftime. He's not a good halftime artist. Pistons
it's tough when you book like rappers who have to clean up their stuff on the fly for halftime shows at LCA. That's always a tough act.
I remember when I was at the game when he performed. This was during the losing streak, and everyone's like, "Who's that?" Like, it's Baby Tron. They're like, "Who?" And then like I was listening to it, I was like, "Dude, he did not cuss one single time." I was just like, "That's tough. It's tough for him." But,
yeah,
I mean, funny stuff. Okay, Eastern Conference. I wanted to just kind of go over it with you. Like, where do you think the Pistons? I know free agency isn't over, but no, there's a couple of players out there, but where do you think they rank right now in the East?
So I was actually having this conversation like the other day with one of my friends. I feel like it's safe to say they're anywhere from, in my opinion, like 3 to 5. I would say I would have them 3 to 5. I think 1 to 2 kind of, in my mind, is New York, and that's just because I'm giving them, benefit of the doubt because they won the championship. Do I think they're going to be as good regular season? No, but it's just kind of like a respect thing. Like you kind of have to put the Knicks number 1 because they're the defending champions and they're pretty much running it back outside of Mitchell Robinson. And then take your pick of Philly or Toronto. Some people might say Indiana. Or even maybe Miami, right? Like any of those teams, I think are due for like a really good regular season. They've all had insane offs. I mean, Indiana to a less extent, but you're getting back a healthy Tyrese Halliburton after a year. Zubac, Kelly Oubre, like you've obviously improved. Any one of those teams, I think you can pencil in for like a really good regular season. So I would say I'd have the Pistons right after that. I think this team will be a really good regular season team again. I was having this conversation. It was basically where I landed. I was like, they're going to be really good in the regular season again. I don't really have many doubts about that. Health, of course, especially for like Cade and Nassar and Duran, like those obviously are the 3 biggest guys. But Cade specifically, like if he's healthy, there's no reason this team shouldn't be in like the top 3 to 5 in the Eastern Conference. I would think 3, but there's always like. The Eastern Conference is a bloodbath now. Like, who knows how this thing ends up shaking out. It's also a little bit of a bloodbath last season. It just wasn't talked about as much because people were still kind of on the idea that the Western Conference was better. I think the playoffs kind of showed that it wasn't. Neither here nor there. But I don't know if they're going to end up being significantly better in the playoffs. right now as constructed? I think that's the bigger question than how I think they'll how they perform in the regular season. I think in the regular season they'll be pretty much the same. I think I'd pencil them in from anywhere around like 50 to 55 wins. I feel like that's pretty safe to say. But you look at like Toronto, because we talk about internal development, right? Like internal development is like a big thing for the Pistons, but the thing is, other teams do have these concepts as well, right? Like Toronto has internal development. Like Scotty Barnes could always take another leap. Colin Murray Boyles could take another leap. Jacoby could take another leap. It's a lot to say that the Pistons are the only team that has internal development or can get better internally. Cleveland, like maybe Evan Mobley, can take another leap. And then on top of that, with Toronto specifically, like you just added Kawhi Leonard to a really young, exciting team, and he fits them perfectly. So it's just like it's stuff like that kind of makes me question the postseason ceiling right now. I don't know if I would say that they're like championship contenders as currently constructed. Of course, if I say this, they're going to end up in the finals next year. But just like as currently constructed right now, I can't say as confidently that I think they're going to be in the NBA finals representing the Eastern Conference, or necessarily in the Eastern Conference finals, because of how strong the conference is right now.
I have them top 4 in the East. Obviously, I think when you look at the Eastern Conference, I've said for the past month, I think the East is going to be stronger than the West. Just kind of given, like, you look from like the Knicks win the championship all the way down to like maybe a team like Washington, who actually finally is a playoff team again. I mean, there's even like, you could kind of look at Charlotte. I know Charlotte did a massive retooling, but they still have like good vets on that team, like Kobe White, Naz Reid, like Concanipple, another year. You still have Brandon Miller. Like they have like good players. Like that's maybe like a bare minimum, like 38-40 win play-in team. Like the East is going to be crazy. Every game I think is going to mean a little bit more this season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's also just going to be exciting to watch, the matchups this year, like seeing Detroit play Toronto with Kawhi, or seeing Detroit play Philadelphia. I mean, if they get Philly in a playoff series, and I'm here to photograph that would be like a dream come true. That would be awesome. Just like the amount of star power on that team is nuts. Just the East as a whole, like it's going to be exciting basketball. I wish the season started like tomorrow. Because it's just like there's a lot that's really exciting about this season already, and I'm really excited to just see how it all shakes out, and how the Pistons even rank up against the rest of the Eastern Conference, or if Toronto can keep a healthy Kawhi, because he was incredible last year, if he can translate that type of performance, and also if his investigation is over, because that's another thing.
Yeah.
Boston, how they look, is Paul George really gonna be the answer to what you're missing in Jaylen Brown? Does Hugo Gonzalez end up taking that leap that they think that he takes, or is Peyton Pritchard the next Jalen Brunson like they say he is? There's a lot for Boston to figure out. Cleveland, what do they do next? They're kind of in no man's land right now, in my opinion, where I don't think there's a world where they're in the Eastern Conference Finals again, as currently constructed. I would be shocked. I don't think they should have won the series against Detroit in the first place. That's neither here nor there. I don't think they won that series because they were better. I think they won that series because Detroit lost that series, if that makes sense. Like Detroit defeated themselves in that series. Here nor there. But Toronto, Philly, Miami, Boston, New York, who am I missing? Indiana. Is Orlando better with Sean Sweeney? Like there's so many interesting teams. Washington, I forgot to mention Washington. Like they have the number 1 pick. They have Anthony Davis. They have Trae Young. They have Chris Middleton. They have a really exciting young core, in my opinion. They have a really underrated young core. Atlanta, like there's one of these, like a lot of 3-4 good teams are not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's a lot. So
crazy.
I'm excited to see though and Chicago. I saw someone saying that in the comments. Chicago, I think they might be better than people are getting them credit for. I think they're actually a really deep team. And if Caleb Wilson is as good as he was in Summer League, talk about Summer League performances, that was insane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like Brandon Jennings thinking the Milwaukee Bucks are making the playoffs in the timeline, but I mean,
but yeah, they're also like a better team than, like they're given credit for. So there's a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference. Like there's almost like no team that you'll get matched up with them one night and you're like, okay, we got a night off tonight.
Unless you're playing the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, Brooklyn's probably.
I mean, Brooklyn even might be a little bit better with. I mean, I know it's like a joke amongst NBA fans, but like Julius Randle is a good NBA player. If they keep Michael Porter Jr. and Mikael Brown Jr. I thought he played really well in Summer League. I think he'll play really well in the NBA. And then Yegor Zemin, I think he had probably outside of like, I guess, Yaxel Lendenberg, Caleb Wilson, and like those guys, I thought he had the best Summer League performance by far. He was incredible. The leap he's taking from year 1 to year 2 is unbelievable. So I think they actually might be better than given credit for. I legit think that. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs or even the play-in for that matter, but I do think they'll be better.
Yeah, I do too. I still think they're like around that 14th to 15th. Just because the East is just so stacked and they're still really young, and I don't know who their starting center is going to be because they got rid of Clax.
That is a good point.
Is it Day'Ron Sharp? Maybe I don't even know. If
I think most likely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Porter Jr. wants an extension, but they don't want to give him an extension. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's just like Brooklyn is just like a team where it's just like I think they'll be better because they're getting another adult in the room. But I mean, the isolations between Michael Porter Jr. and Julius Randle next year, I think a lot of Brooklyn fans will probably just want to jump off a cliff. Personally, like I know they're going through a rebuild, but it's just like, yeah, man, like how are we supposed to get better with them getting like splitting 40 touches between the two?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, they are definitely big on ball guys, but I thought Michael Porter Jr.'s playmaking is an underrated part of his game. I mean, obviously his thing was never swing the rock, but in Brooklyn, I thought he showed good playmaking flashes last year. But yeah, no, it is. I mean, at the very least, it'll be an interesting team to watch, which is more than I can say for them like last year. And I think Jordi Fernandez, great coach, like kind of similar to the Utah situation where these are great coaches that just haven't really gotten to show that they're great coaches because they have to tank for half the season. And obviously now that's also like part of this, what makes this, entire season really interesting. As much as I dislike the new draft lottery format, every team kind of has to try. And I think you're kind of seeing that in the way that teams are building right now. There's no team that's like, okay, yeah, we're trying to be terrible. Like we're trying to be as bad as we possibly can be. Like every single team at least has the ability to compete. So maybe I end up being wrong about the draft lottery format. I was really against it initially, but maybe it produces like more interesting regular season, produces more parity in the offseason where there aren't teams that are just dumping off contracts to, dump off contracts. So, it's a really exciting. I'm really excited for this season.
I think the party's going to be over if someone makes the play-in tournament and they get the first overall pick. People are going to be pissed. I could totally see that. Like, say OKC just is like completely injured, or like Orlando, just they can't stay healthy, but they get the first overall pick. It's just going to be like, dude, come on. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, or Boston for that matter. Like, they have the perfect mix to be maybe fall into that like 6 to 10 range, and who knows what happens from there.
Yeah, who knows? Like the East is just going to be like really stacked. I kind of wanted to like still piggyback on this topic. Like,
sure,
which teams do you think will be definitively better than Detroit as the roster is currently constructed?
In the regular season, I'm going to go on a limb and say probably Philadelphia. I know there's a lot of divisiveness about that team right now in terms of like the casual NBA fan obviously is like, oh my God, this is the coolest team ever. Like they're Jaylen Brown and Joel Embiid and LeBron James and Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. True. I think objectively that's just cool to see. On the other hand, if you ask someone about their adjusted plus minus, it's not great, right? But like these are all just like it's like it's the ultimate like sheets versus eye test conversation.
Yeah.
I think though there's too much talent there for them to not be good in the regular season. Especially if LeBron James is healthy, which is an insane sentence to say about the Philadelphia 76ers. I can't believe I'm saying if LeBron James is healthy, if Joel Embiid is healthy. They are just too talented to fail, in my opinion. Like they are so supremely stacked with talent. Their bench is stacked with talent. Their starting lineup is probably the most talented starting five in basketball. I would say they're probably above Detroit. Toronto, if Kawhi is healthy, I think I would probably put above Detroit. In the regular season, I don't think New York is going to be better than Detroit. I think in the playoffs, that's a different conversation, but I don't think in the regular season they'll be better. I gave them that for the sake of rankings, but I don't think that this team is going to be as good in the regular season as they were in the playoffs this past season. And I think once they get to the playoffs, that's a different conversation. This is obviously a postseason rising team because they didn't even really have that good of a regular season this year. You know, like they won what 53 games, I want to say.
Yeah.
Third seed in the Eastern Conference. Like they weren't having the best regular season in the world, and they put it together in the playoffs. So I would say Philadelphia, I'd say Toronto. There's a world where maybe Indiana just comes out as world beaters out of the gate, and Tyrese Halliburton post injury is just on fire. I think it'll take more time than that, so I still have Detroit above them. Yeah, I think those are probably the only two teams.
I mean, Hallie's already doing East Bays out here.
Yeah,
like he's already looking like he's pretty healthy. Like I think a lot of people forgot about Indiana because they were so bad last year, but they still have Siakam, still have Obi Toppin. I think the Zubac element, I think, is obviously they don't really have a stretch big outside of Jay Huff, but I think the Zubac pick and roll and just the rebounding and the defense actually kind of elevates them a little bit higher. Just in my personal ranking, anyways, I think Indiana will definitely be like top 5, top 6 team in the East. And I feel like they really didn't come together until like late April. And they were just like kind of like the Knicks. Like they really like they went back and forth with Boston in the seeding, but like they weren't really world beaters like in the Eastern Conference. Not until the playoffs when they just had an incredible run and they just could not miss a shot. And they were just locking teams up defensively. Like there's some teams that are just like in the regular season, they just coast and the playoffs come and they're locked in. I mean, that to me is going to be the Knicks. And who knows how Jalen Brunson's wrist is. I know he still has kind of like a brace on. He had surgery on it. So feel like every time I watched him, he always went back in the locker room because he always like had an injury and then he came back and he was fine. But
yeah,
I'm with you. Like Toronto, definitely see Philly. I think Philly on paper looks better. I'm kind of interested to see how everything just meshes and how it fits. I think defensively, I have a lot of questions of like how they're going to be, but like I think they could be a team that could put 130 on your head easily.
Yeah,
I think the offensive talent is just off the damn charts. I just kind of wonder, like what happens when Joel Embiid's injured? Like who's your backup center?
That's a big question mark for sure.
Is it Bana? I doubt it's Johnny Broom. I heard Brian Windhorst said Dean Wade on his podcast. I was like, I don't know about that one. But I mean, it's kind of crazy.
I mean, maybe, because Dean Wade is like 6'9", 6'10", like maybe. But this is just such a weird team, like to like figure out that maybe, sure, why not? I guess, like, you know, but no, I feel like it's probably either a Dembona or Ariel Hakaporti. I always struggle with his last name, but I think it's one of those two, likely, unless they go out and make a move for a backup center, which I could see them doing. But yeah, it is a lot to figure out. I don't think they'll be that good defensively. I think Dean Wade has a lot of burden defensively that he's going to have to take on, but there's just so much offensive talent there that I can't be like, oh yeah, they're gonna suck in the regular season. Like, could there be questions come playoffs? Absolutely, I think so. Because defense matters especially in today's NBA, a lot in the postseason. Again, if you're supremely talented offensively, that's, probably the best. Like, you have to be this talented offensively to not be average or above average defensively in today's NBA in the playoffs. So maybe they have the offensive talent that could overcome that. But yeah, I would say Philly and Toronto. I think like those are the two safe options. There's no one else I really feel like is really that much better than Detroit, though, in the regular season.
Not in the regular season, not at all. But I mean, like, this could be a completely different team at the deadline. I mean, like, we just really don't know which star's going to be disgruntled. This kind of stick with the East. Like, which team do you think is like severely overrated, just among fans?
Fans, I can't say as much because I haven't really been tuned in. I've seen a lot of media say that Boston's going to be as good or better than they were last season, and I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I think Paul George was great in the playoffs, and I still think he's a very good quality NBA player in 2026. There is no way you're going to convince me that this team is better than they were last season. Yes, they did add Mitchell Robinson. If we want to talk about availability, those are two guys who have serious availability issues. And I think obviously they are a very well-coached team, right? Like, it goes without saying. They have their own system in place that obviously works. But I think people really underestimate how much Jaylen Brown, and I'm not even his biggest fan, but they really underestimate how much Jaylen Brown contributed to this team being what it was last season. I know, again, I've talked about like the advanced stats community. They hate him. They hate his guts. I get it. But at the same time, like, undoubtedly, when you need someone to step up, he stepped up, right? And like, that's a big part of it. And I think it's a lot for Tatum to take on. Obviously, I think he was amazing post Achilles tear, like unthinkable recovery. But he's got a lot on his plate. And I don't think that this team, as currently constructed, I can say that they're like a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. Like, in my opinion, no way. Like, I would have, where the conversations for Boston for me would start would be like 5 would be high. I would have them like 6th, like on the high end, in the Eastern Conference. I would say easily Philadelphia, I think, would be better in the regular season. I think Indiana will be better in the regular season than them. I think Detroit will be better in the regular season than them. And then, you can have your pick of the litter amongst them. Toronto, obviously, I think will be better than them. So that's like already having them 6th, right? And then you can have conversations where maybe Atlanta is better than people expect, or maybe because obviously like Miami, they got Giannis, that's huge, but like, there's a lot to figure out. But maybe they are better than like people are giving them credit for, and maybe Miami can take that 6th spot. So like, all that considered, Boston's kind of lost in the fray, in my opinion. I don't think they're very well constructed. I think this is a stealth tank, like not like a little bit of a stealth tank. I think they're going to end up being like a 6 to 10 seed. There's a world where they don't make the playoffs, and then maybe they get rewarded with the 1st overall pick or some shit. So it's Boston. They always land on their feet somehow. But like this season, I don't really believe in their ceiling.
No, me either. I saw. I'm pretty sure it was Yahoo Sports. They had Boston number 3, and Cleveland and New York was above them, and then Philly was at number 4. But that was before LeBron. Like, they're probably up as high as 2, which is like the early offseason rankings. But like, I just don't. It doesn't pass the smell test for me. Like, obviously, like, I think acquiring Paul George is a risk in itself because you don't know how many games you're going to get. Same with Mitchell Robinson. Like, you just don't know. I don't know if Jason Tatum can take on that same kind of role that Jaylen Brown did and elevate them as high as a number 2 seed in the East, especially with all the other teams around like getting better. I don't think Boston is going to be as good as a lot of people say. I'm also going to say Washington because I've seen some people say Washington's going to be a top 5 seed. I think Washington. Yeah, I think Washington will be better. I think they will be better. But this is probably the most veterans that Brian Keefe has ever had to kind of like coach as a coach. I know he's been there during the rebuild, he's had to work with Alex Sarr and Kashawn George and Bub Carrington and Trey Johnson, all those guys. Now I just think about it, like their young core is actually insane. But like I think Washington will be a playoff team. I just don't have them like top 5 in the East.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, it's just so stacked. I mean, who would be like the biggest jump you think though, when you kind of just like look at it
from last season to this season?
Yeah.
Probably Washington, because I mean, they going from having the first overall pick to like playoff conversations. I mean, that's huge. So I'll again, because we just talked about them a little bit, I'll give an alternative answer. The biggest fall off, I think, will be Charlotte. Not to say I don't think they made smart moves this offseason. I think they severely they underrated LaMelo Ball apparently like crazy. And I'm not Jaylen Brown's biggest fan. I'm not LaMelo Ball's biggest fan. I was at a certain point, but like, obviously there's a lot of give and take with LaMelo, but that offense was so good. Like so good in the second half of the season, like historically good in the second half of the season. To take away the primary initiator, to take away the guy who was like the head of the snake on like a severe, like on a really, really, really good offense, and just be like, okay, well, we should still be about the same. I don't believe in it. That's the one team that I think I'd probably have outside of the play-in, especially in today's Eastern Conference. They did add some good veterans, and I think Con Knippel's obviously still great. I think Brandon Miller is obviously great. Naz Reid will be fun there, I'm sure. But like, there's no way, in my opinion, that they end up making the playoffs this year. And I thought, there was a world where they ended up beating Orlando if Orlando didn't have like a kind of out of body insane play-in performance that they hadn't had in like pretty much all of the season before then. And then obviously they went on to have a great first round against Detroit. But I thought the Hornets went from being like kind of a shoe-in for a play-in spot again, or maybe like taking a jump, to taking a pretty significant fallback, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, those Wolf picks might actually pay some dividends depending on what happens with Anthony Edwards. They might actually turn into lottery picks. And then Miles Bridges was always destined to be a Phoenix Sun. I mean, if you know, you know. I mean, it's MSU Suns over there. I mean, it's just like I wasn't too surprised that he did get dealt there. But I'll give you one that might be a surprising. I think the Atlanta Hawks are going to take the biggest jump in the East.
Okay.
I think with the additions of Aaron Wiggins, Lou Dort, you bring back CJ McCollum, like Kingston Fleming. Man, that kid. It's not going to be this year, but I think maybe next year he could be their starting point guard. Like
definitely, yeah.
Just the defense, the speed, the scoring at all three levels. Like you still have Jalen Johnson. I still think it's center. That's like their weakest position. Still, I think they would be a perfect Daniel Gafford team. I know I don't know like how they could finagle that, but I feel like if they were able to get like more size in the middle, I would have them a little bit higher. I could see them as high as 4 in the East this year, with like just the defense that they're surrounding everything. You can kind of see the vision. Like they're trying to be athletic, they're trying to be fast, and you get Dort and Wiggins, like 2 of the biggest contributors from OKC last year, on top of Dyson Daniels. Like that's going to be a team that's going to be really hard to play in a half-court setting.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a good pick, honestly. I think I'm really excited to watch Atlanta Hawks basketball this year. I don't know if I can necessarily pencil them in top 4, but I think there's definitely a world where they could end up being that. Wonder what that means for Detroit in that scenario, but I think they'll be really exciting to watch. The only question again I have is, again, like you said, the center position. I think Zubi Ejiofor was a great pick for them, but he's kind of more of like a power forward center kind of deal. And then Henry Visar, They have Jock Landale. They have, but like there's no real answer there. But yeah, I think that's a great pick. I think Atlanta did make a lot of really exciting moves, and they might. I think of all the teams that might not be done, they might not be done because there's still the Kuminga thing to figure out. And they still obviously have some things that need addressing. So yeah, I do like Atlanta a lot.
Yeah, I mean, after the trade deadline, they were like the hottest team in basketball. Like,
they were, yeah.
It was like a 90% win percentage. Obviously, I think getting CJ kind of like slowed things down for them a little bit. And then I didn't even mention Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Like, he had a breakout season too. It's just like they have so many young, intriguing pieces, and I like their coach a lot. So I definitely have them penciled in top 4. I could if they're healthy, like I could totally see them just being a transition nightmare and just mucking it up defensively and just giving in the regular season. In the playoff setting, I think if you're going up against a bigger center, like Cat just absolutely bullied them. Mitchell Robinson absolutely bullied them. Like that's something they do need to address, is getting more of a rim protector or just like an enforcer, which I think Zuby Ejiofor to me kind of has a little bit of Beef Stew vibes, maybe minus the fights. But like Zuby to me, I think it's definitely like a culture guy for them that'll definitely bring a lot of toughness, and like he had a really good summer league too.
He did, yeah. Yeah, I like that pick a lot.
I mean, like I said, East is going to be interesting. I mean, I still have the Pistons kind of like in that hierarchy of like top 4, but top 5. Like I could totally see like a Pistons Atlanta first round series.
I could totally see that. I would hate that for Cade.
Yeah,
because that would really mean a lot of creativity would have to happen offensively that I don't know. Because I mean, yeah, that would be tough. That would be a tough matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Hawks top 4 might just sound like a complete just hot take, and it might age like milk. But
Pistons 1 seed would have been a hot take last season anyway. Like I do see the vision there though. Like they won the most games against the defending champions in the playoffs. There's a reason to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the game when we were down 20 and we came back, but like the transition game they were playing, like it was just incredible, just going up and down the court. And like I'm a big Jalen Johnson stan. Like I've a point forward that can dribble, shoot, pass, defend. Like I think he's gonna have a breakout year too. Like I'm really high on Jalen Johnson. I'm really high in the Hawks, and maybe I shouldn't be being a Piston fan, but like I just look at their acquisitions. I was like, man, I would have loved Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We talked about Lou Dort last time you were on. I was like, man,
yeah,
that would have been like, you lose a little bit of identity with Stu, like getting Lou Dort. That would have been like a home run. But I mean,
yeah, I was kind of holding out hope that was going to happen.
Yeah, same here. I do have one more topic, and obviously I've told my subscribers that I'm not going to talk about it, but I would love to hear your take on it with just like the Jalen Duren extension saga, I guess we'll call it. I mean, what's kind of just been your take like since the playoffs have ended and just all the reporting that we've got since, I guess, June when it started?
It's a loaded subject. Where do I want to start with this? I mean, for one, Jalen Duren, I'm going to start here, is a very talented basketball player. He is no doubt one of the best centers in the NBA. Pretty objective, right? Like made all NBA third team. That being said, he did have a very bad playoff performance, and that's putting it a little bit lightly. I think I've always been really high on Jalen Duren. I've had it on record since like 2022. I was like, there's a world where he could be like 1B best player on this team, which I mean, I guess I was kind of right. But in today's NBA, if you want to really be a contender, you can't have that much money being given to a guy who isn't proven in the playoffs. It's just how it works. You look at the way things are going in the NBA right now, there's one guy on a team who makes that much money. With what's rumored, Jalen Duren would be making the most money on this team. I don't think that's a very reasonable thing to do. And I think Trajan is standing firm on not, being his own competition in terms of like paying against the market, and there was no market. If you are the Brooklyn Nets, let's say, would I be interested in signing Jalen Duren to a $287 million contract? Yeah, maybe, because we don't have that, right? Like we don't have that kind of player on our team.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Detroit Pistons, am I interested in signing Jalen Duren to a $287 million contract? No. Can I understand why Jalen Duren wants that contract? Absolutely, right? Like you want to set yourself up to be making as much money as possible. But on the other hand, like if you want to win, it can't go down like this. Like there's just like no other way to put it. Like if you want to win a championship, and this team obviously wants to win a championship, obviously, I think the front office doesn't believe that's right now. I don't think the front office believes they're winning a championship this season. I think that's pretty apparent. Unless they go out and make, that big move at the deadline, then maybe. But before the 2026-27 NBA season, I don't think the goal is to win the NBA championship from the front office. I think the goal is to progress. I think the goal is to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and see where you go from there. I don't think you can pay Jalen Duren that much money.
No.
And I don't think that's a knock on Jalen Duren. Like that's a lot of money. That's a significant portion of the salary cap. And that's more money than a lot of really solid, like a lot of like the top players in the NBA are making. And I think that's a recipe for disaster. You can't make any trades. You'll be stuck in the second apron. You are kind of fried as a franchise, point blank period. That's just kind of how it is. Again, I completely understand why Jalen Duren's pushing for that. I can understand why he wants to make that, push for that lucrative of a contract. I get it. I think he's worthy of getting a significant payday. Like, I think if they end up coming to an agreement around like $35 to $38 million annually, that's fair, right? Like, I think that's pretty fair. Even if they end up at like maybe I heard this in Summer League. Someone had said 3-year deal, like 40 million. It starts at 40 million, and maybe descends a little bit each year, like something like that. I could totally see, and I think that's more than valid. But yeah, where I'm at currently today about it is I just want it to be over. I want this situation to be done with. It's gotten very toxic for a lot of fans. I'm sure Jalen Duren has received a lot of this, and there's no way he's not seeing it. Which sucks for him, right? Because like he had to deal with a lot of that in the playoffs, and then it hasn't gotten any easier. So I personally wonder where his mental is at, how he's been since the playoffs, because this is a lot for a 22-year-old guy who kind of hasn't really had this type of spotlight before. And then all of a sudden just got thrown into the deep end. So yeah, where I'm at, I don't think you can pay Jalen Duren like a super max. There's no way. You lose your ability to have any sort of financial wiggle room to go out and get that second guy, or go out and, pretty much do anything, because the second apron kills you in the NBA today. It's stupid that the second apron punishes teams for drafting well, but that is just the way things are. And the way things are, let's just come to an agreement that there's no market right now. We don't want to pay you that much, but we can maybe compromise. I think like that's where conversations have to go, because this has run circles now for like months. And if we reach the end of August and there's still no agreement, and then I think the deadline's in September.
I think October.
Oh, is it really in October?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, if we go all the way to October, then like, what are we doing here, right? Like at that point, it's a bit concerning. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I understand why things have gone the way they've gone up until this point. I hope the toxicity ends. I hope that the sides can just come to an agreement. And I hope that both sides enter training camp and the regular season, putting this behind them and moving forward like happily.
So like a two-way question, because saw these reports last week. What if he threatens to take the qualifying offer?
If he threatens, if he threatens it, whatever. If you legitimately believe that he's not going to sign this offer no matter what, and he's going to take the qualifying offer, I think you have to just give up. You got to give up and just let him go get that sign and trade somewhere. Because the qualifying offer would kill you. Like that would legitimately like kill you. Because obviously, like now, the way things are in the NBA today, like when free agency opens, you have your own window to talk to your own free agents. So in a way, every free agent's kind of restricted, kind of somewhat, to where like, you know, free agency opens and like they're already on the next plane to like, I don't know, Sacramento, you know, like it's not, that's not necessarily how things work now. But in the same hand, if he feels slighted by this and he's decided and he ends up, you know, playing a similar season production wise and, you know, translates to the playoffs and Detroit's like, oh, well, okay, we'll pay you now, but there's another team who's ready to pay him. There's a real world where he'd go, okay, now you guys already showed me you don't really value me and you don't want to pay me. So I'm going to go take my talents to, you know, wherever that place may be. And you would lose him for nothing. And that would be a then 23-year-old all-star, all-NBA player walking away from your team with you receiving zero in return. And that would 100% be the worst case imaginable. That is like, I don't want to say franchise like window potentially closing, but it's bad. That's really bad. So if you do get a sense that he actually is preparing to sign the qualifying offer, then you kind of have to call teams and go, okay, what are you willing to offer Jalen Duren? And you go from there. Because at that point, what are we doing?
I know, like all the reports that I've read from like The Athletic to, you know, guys like Omari who cover the team here locally, like a lot of the beat guys here, like Pistons have no interest like whatsoever in any sign-in trades. Obviously, if they hold all the cards because, like you mentioned, there's no market. Like I kind of worried about Chicago. I worried about Brooklyn. I worried about Los Angeles early on, but that market dried up in about a week's time. The Sacramento thing was cute, but like they could never really like actually do anything unless it was a sign and trade for Sabonis. Obviously, that didn't really materialize. It was just a conversation. But I'm just to the point. It's like if you want the max, which is $57 million, try to compromise because I think if you're like you said 35, like let's say they give him like 5 years, what's that, 175, 180, like. You're really gonna walk away from $180 because you didn't get the 287. Like I get it's a huge gap, but like maybe you just front load a contract for a couple of years, which I've seen some fans talk about. But it just kind of seems like his agent is just holding out to see what the Pistons will budge. It's a big game of poker right now, and I low-key think Trajan is probably one of the best poker players like out there.
Yeah, he's got a great poker face for sure.
He's not budging like it. Yeah. Like if this was Troy Weaver, he would have folded like a launcher and given the supermax like in 2 seconds. Like this front office is very stern and they're very creative with contracts. I would say, especially with the non-guaranteed years. But again, like I value Jalen Duren for what he is as a player. Obviously, playoffs were completely underwhelming. I think every Piston fan will tell you that, but I think 30 to 35 is fair for what he did, and maybe just do a 2-year or a 3-year contract. Maybe you just kind of take the Kuminga deal. Maybe you want to get out of it earlier and test the market to see if you can get that max. But I think for what it is right now, they still want to extend a SAR too. They still like. Trajan has always said, I want to feel a competitive team. I can't feel the competitive team if I got 2 guys on a max.
Right.
you mentioned it, like that would kind of put you in the second apron. You don't want that. You wouldn't be able to get that secondary creator or the secondary star. Like, I just fear that they're kind of leaning on internal development a little bit too much, because I think we both understand, like, he's talented, but paying him that much, I think, is a very slippery slope of kind of closing your window pretty quickly.
For sure. Yeah. And it's like when you say that, like, it's not necessarily like, oh, if you pay Jalen Duren like this much money, then you're cooked. Like, I think if you pay anybody that much money next to another max player, and like a true like super max player, unless they're like a tier 1 superstar, yeah, that's like no team in the NBA wants to be in the second apron, because it kind of kills your competitiveness. Like, it kills your ability to do anything. Cleveland was in the second apron this season, and obviously, like, they did the James Harden thing, but like that doesn't like happen often. Like, and they're doing everything in their power to not be in the second apron again this upcoming season. The Oklahoma City Thunder, like, doing everything in their power to not be in the second apron. Denver has to make a decision of, do we really want to like bring Spencer Jones and Peyton Watson back and be a second apron team, or do we just cut costs? Because it kills you. And I don't think the Pistons can afford to be a second apron team. And it's not to say I don't think Tom Gores would care to pay that luxury tax. Like, I don't think that's even a thought for him. But I think it's more just about what it does to team building. And I think the way things are in the NBA, and the more teams learn about the second apron and the new CBA, the more they're going to avoid that second apron. So if you're putting yourself in a deal where, okay, like, I have to sign Jalen Duren, then you're not going to allow it to reach that second apron, because it's going to kill any ability to really be that championship level team. And like, that's part of it for me, that like, I wish, as much as I understand Duren chasing the bag, totally get it. If you want to win here, like, you would at some point, like, you just kind of have to come to that understanding that like, this is how the NBA works right now. Like, I know it sucks, I know it's unfair, but like, like, it's the only way that like you can really compete for a championship. Brunson took a pay cut, Wemby took a pay cut. Like, if you want to win, these are the kind of sacrifices you got to make.
Yeah, I mean, Wemby was eligible for over $300 million. He didn't even take that. So yeah. I mean, like, if anyone wants to like take the bag, like, I could understand like him wanting to take the bag. He just made the NBA Finals, and he's got a good roster around him. I mean, even have like other San Antonio Spurs players saying like, yeah, I'd probably take a pay cut to like stay with the team that I currently have. But it's just like, a lot of it I know is agent tactics and negotiations, where you threaten to take the qualifying offer, you threaten to flirt with other teams to see if the current organization, which is the Pistons, to budge to get to your price. Like, I get it. At the end of the day, it's an agent tactic. But we're almost in August, and even the ESPN guys said this past week that like it could go deep into August before they actually come to an agreement. Like, there's been more, good conversation since the LeVert trade, but like, I think my cutoff for it is like 38. Like, that's the highest I'd be willing to go, because I think it's fair. He gets paid, and it also gives the Pistons a little bit of wiggle room to negotiate with the SAR. And possibly maybe you stack some contracts to get more of a secondary score and build the core with Cade, Duren, and the SAR long term in the East.
Yeah. I think honestly, I think 40 I'd be okay with. Past 40 it gets a little questionable, but I think 40 is okay, all things considered. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, I told people I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I wanted to get your take on it, because maybe I'm just being like a complete asshole, and like, I don't want to like pay him. I told you at the top of the pod, because I just don't value the center position as much as I think other people. And I was just like, man, like, the only $50 million centers are Cat, Jokic, and Embiid, and Bam's right there at 49. So I was just like 2 out of the 4 I just named that are champions.
Right.
And that's just like kind of gets to a point. It's just like I'd be comfortable if you were kind of like in the Alperen Sengun tier. Still a good center. Maybe you can't get up to that max because like I don't know, man. It's just like everything he said in post game, interviews this year about wanting to win a championship, being about the team. It's just like, well, your actions kind of say like you want to get paid like the guy. So it's just like,
the only thing that like
crazy.
The only thing I and because we don't really know, right, the like full extent of the conversations that are being had. At least I don't know. If there was a world where like prior to the playoffs, Detroit was like, okay, if you make all NBA, we'll give you the supermax. Like there was a verbal agreement or a promise made. I can understand. The frustration and like the kind of resistance to take anything besides a supermax. If you were promised that, that's a total different conversation. But that was the only thing I was like thinking about. I was like, okay, maybe he was promised, and maybe like that's what rubbed him the wrong way. But yeah.
I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm waiting to see what the figure is. I mean, I made a prediction. I said 5 years, 150, which was like 30 million. Which I mean, if you can get away with that, cool. But it sounds like it might be a little bit more than that. But I do want to give you the floor to plug and promote Bully Ball, which I think we have every single link in the description. We might not, but I know you guys were doing some draft stuff that I did watch. Put it on the TV, just watched it, kind of just ordered pizza. I was like, I'm just gonna listen to some draft stuff. But I mean, tell the people where they can support your work and tap into Bully Ball as well.
Yeah, at Real Bully Ball is our username on everything. We have a lot of written content coming out. There should be a Lions piece coming out tomorrow because I went out and brought in a lot of really talented people like this summer and into the fold, and a lot of people who are going to be contributing writing and potentially like video stuff as well. So yeah, there's a lot in the works. We're doing NFL stuff. Obviously, the Pistons stuff stays the same. I'm adding more people to talk Pistons because I'm running myself insane sometimes when I'm like doing photography and then I'm editing and then I'm like doing social media and then I'm like I also have to cover the team. And it's a lot. So there's a lot of really talented people that I brought in that I really believe in and are already doing really good work. And you can find us on bullyball.net and then also on YouTube, same username. We should have more stuff coming out in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, man, I really appreciate you having me on and getting to talk more Pistons.
Yeah, it's always fun having you on. I just looked. We have your Instagram, we have your Twitter, we have your YouTube is LinkedIn because YouTube's cool like that when you actually tag other YouTube. So
Sweet.
You guys can just click on his YouTube channel and support that and support every other social media channel that they are on. But I appreciate you making the time as always, man.
Of course, bro.
We will see you guys later throughout the week. Don't know if we're going to be doing daily podcast because it's pretty damn dry right now. But appreciate you guys as always. Talk soon. Peace.